Have you ever noticed something fascinating? How the moment you stop fixating on something, it suddenly begins to work out naturally. It seems contradictory, doesn't it? Throughout our lives, we're constantly taught that success comes from pursuing, struggling, and persisting. But what if the opposite approach is actually more effective? What if our attachments are the very things blocking our progress in relationships, career paths, and even finding inner peace? Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in psychology, suggested something truly revolutionary. He proposed that the harder you try to control your life, the more it seems to escape your grasp. Today, I'm going to explore why releasing control might be the only authentic path towards true freedom. The paradox of attachment is striking. The tighter we cling to our vision of how things should unfold, the more distant they become. Attachment, which theoretically should provide us with security, actually chains us to expectations that rarely align with the reality we face. Jung captured this perfectly when he stated, "What you chase runs, what you accept transforms." We exist in a society that celebrates effort, control, and relentless achievement, as if peace and fulfillment are perpetually one more accomplishment away. But this compulsive need to orchestrate everything according to plan might be precisely what prevents authentic experiences from emerging in our lives. If you're committed to transforming your mindset and discovering more freedom in your life, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Don't forget to like this video if you're finding value already. Let's continue our exploration of Jung's powerful philosophy. This concept isn't about surrendering or becoming indifferent. It's about a subtle yet profound shift, moving away from the need to control everything and into a state of genuine self-awareness. For Jung, detachment wasn't emotional coldness, but a necessary psychological move. The ego must separate from its projections before something more authentic can emerge. As long as we're entangled in our projections onto people, desires, or idealized futures, we can't clearly see what's actually happening within ourselves. It's perfectly natural to want positive outcomes. The problem begins when our identity becomes intertwined with specific results. When I am the success, the relationship, or the recognition, then failure, loss, or rejection feels like an existential crisis. Jung understood that this constant tension is simply the ego attempting to maintain an illusion. Everything changes the moment we stop fighting life's natural flow, not out of defeat, but out of clarity. Let's discuss the persona and its limitations. In Jung's psychology, the persona represents the social mask we wear to gain acceptance. While functional and necessary, problems arise when we identify too strongly with this mask and begin living solely to uphold an image rather than our truth. Being known as the strong one, the spiritual one, or the successful one may sound positive, even virtuous. But these labels come with a heavy cost, constant self-monitoring to maintain the image. This exhausting process distances us not only from others, but from ourselves. No one can achieve wholeness while carrying the burden of constant performance. Freedom begins when we realize we don't need to uphold any fixed narrative, that we can fail, change our minds, or contradict ourselves. We don't need to remain consistent with who we were yesterday, only honest about who we are today. If you're finding these insights valuable for your personal growth journey, please take a moment to subscribe and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Your support helps us reach more people with transformative wisdom. Now, let's continue with understanding the shadow. Behind our carefully constructed masks hides what we fear most, the shadow. To Jung, the shadow represents all the repressed aspects of our psyche. the parts we deny, ignore, or deem unacceptable. The more we reject these aspects, the stronger they become behind the scenes. The attached person may claim they want freedom, but often they deeply fear what comes with it: the emptiness, the silence, the absence of external validation. That's why people cling to relationships, work, or idealized futures, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of confronting what emerges when everything they've leaned on disappears. When we stop fearing the shadow, it stops controlling us through back channels. We begin to integrate these forgotten parts, the neediness, fear, vulnerability, as legitimate aspects of who we are, not to surrender to them, but so they stop controlling us from the shadows. Now, let's explore the distinction between true love and neediness. It's common to confuse love with need. The boundary between wanting to be with someone and fearing to be without them is thin, but it makes all the difference. Jung said, "True love only begins when projection ends." As long as we're trapped in what the other person represents to us, we can't see them clearly. And often, we can't see ourselves either. In the early stages of relationships, idealizations are natural. But when they persist too long, they become a prison disguised as affection. We project onto others our emotional salvation, safety, even our sense of identity, creating dependency without realizing it. Detaching in this context doesn't mean stopping loving. It means starting to love in a more authentic way. It means allowing others to exist without needing them to hold a fixed place in our emotional structure. It's relating to the real person, not the projection we've created. When we finally release control, something remarkable happens. The world doesn't collapse. It reorganizes itself. The silence that once seemed threatening becomes fertile ground. The emptiness that once brought fear reveals itself as space for new growth. Jung spoke of the psychic energy that returns when we stop feeding the ego's defense mechanisms. All the energy once spent maintaining a persona, controlling the future, or resisting the present becomes available again. That's where creation is born. Not just artistic creation, but existential creation. To create isn't only to paint or write poetry. It's to reorganize your life with presence, to reshape your path, to choose work that respects your natural rhythm. This space is also where intuition finds its voice. Once muffled by the noise of expectations and anxiety, it now speaks more clearly. You begin to notice connections where you once only saw problems. Decisions become lighter because you're no longer trying to prove anything. And curiously, the things that once felt out of reach start coming to you, not because of some magical force, but because you've stepped out of your own way. In the end, it all comes down to a quiet gesture, opening your hand and letting go of control, of images, of fears, of worn-out stories. Not from exhaustion, though exhaustion is often where it starts, but from clarity. Because there comes a point when holding on costs more than letting go. Attachment, no matter how familiar it feels, is not love. It's born from fear, from lack, from the urge to keep alive something that may have already fulfilled its purpose. Jung reminds us that healing doesn't happen when we force change, but when we accept what is. When we stop fighting life and start listening to it. When we stop chasing what should be and look truthfully at what is. So perhaps the most important question right now is, what are you still holding on to? What image, story, person, or expectation still occupies space inside you and prevents the new from arriving? Letting go is a risk, but holding on is too. And often the risk of staying stuck is greater than the fear of change. Life begins when the illusion of control ends. And it's in that quiet, intimate moment that we return to ourselves, not as an ideal, but as a presence. And from there, everything that truly matters finds its way towards us, not because we chased it, but because we finally created the space for it to arrive. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Until next time, embrace the power of letting go.